Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're undertaking, well, a pretty complex mission, dissecting the world of decentralized finance, or DeFi.
Yeah, DeFi. You hear the term everywhere, right? Often kind of mixed up with just crypto speculation.
Exactly, but the sources you shared show this is fundamentally a different conversation. It's more like a foundational shift, trying to restructure the whole global financial sector.
Getting rid of the traditional gatekeepers, you mean?
Hmm.
The banks, the
Brokers.
brokers.
Precisely. The central clearinghouses, all of them. And right at the heart of it, of course, is cryptocurrency.
Can't really have DeFi without crypto.
So our deep dive today is focused on three key areas. First, the essential benefits, why crypto is basically the only tool for the job in DeFi. Second, the real-world challenges, the growing pains the whole space is wrestling with right now.
The hurdles, yeah.
And finally, we're going to tie it all together. We'll look at a fascinating case study on how tokenomics is used way outside trading, specifically in humanitarian aid with PAMA and the Pi network.
And what's great about the sources, I think, is how balanced they are. They don't just sell the dream.
No, they're pretty upfront.
They really detail the big hurdles, scalability issues, regulation complexities, all that stuff.
Right.
And it's that tension, isn't it, between the big idea of decentralization and the messy reality of making it work. That's what drives the innovation.
Exactly. So let's start with the opportunities, the upsides. Instead of just listing 10 points, let's group the big shifts. Maybe into 4 core themes, the things that really define this new financial world.
Sounds good. The pillars of decentralization.
Yeah, let's call it that. Section 1, the pillars of decentralization. Where do we start?
Well, the first one, and maybe the most profound, is all about inclusion and financial sovereignty.
Ah, right, because traditional finance leaves out, what, billions of people?
Billions, yeah. Either they don't have banks nearby or they can't meet the requirements, like needing a credit history.
But with DeFi, the idea is anyone with an internet connection can get involved. Savings, lending, trading.
Pretty much. It kind of democratizes access, doesn't it? You don't need a bank branch on the corner or that credit check.
So it empowers people in underbanked regions, marginalized communities, just by sidestepping the old gatekeepers.
And that connects directly to censorship resistance. Because the network's spread out, no single player, not a bank, not a government, can just freeze your assets or block you.
Users keep control. Financial sovereignty? That's a big deal, psychologically and practically.
It is, though that power does raise questions, doesn't it? Does it also shield bad actors?
That's the flip side, yeah. The regulatory headache.
Absolutely creates headaches, but that's the trade-off with true decentralization, right? And the tech itself offers some answers, which brings us to the second theme. Trust, mechanics, and security.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, all the transactions get recorded on a public ledger. It's immutable, meaning it can't be changed once it's there.
So instead of trusting, say, a bank's private records, you trust the public shared record. That's the transparency part.
Precisely. Makes everything verifiable, much harder to cheat the system. And then you have smart contracts.
The programmable agreements.
Exactly. Little bits of code that automatically enforce deals based on rules you set beforehand. Self-executing.
So they run themselves once the conditions are met.
Right. Minimizes human error. And you don't need expensive lawyers or intermediaries to make sure the deal goes through.
That reduction in friction, in cost.
Yeah.
That leads nicely into the third theme. Efficiency and cost.
Definitely. Think about sending money internationally the old way.
Oh, yeah. Remittances can take days, and the fees can be pretty high, right? Like 10% sometimes.
Exactly. With DeFi running on a blockchain, those transfers can happen in minutes, sometimes seconds.
Wow.
And because it's peer-to-peer, P2P, you cut out all that overhead. No physical branches, fewer middlemen. The cost savings can be massive.
That could genuinely change how money moves around the world. Global remittances alone, that's huge.
Huge. And the final theme, the one that really points to the future, is economic drivers and programmability.
Meaning the tokens themselves can be programmed to do things.
Exactly. Developers can build complex applications, dApps, on top of the blockchain. Think insurance, derivatives, sophisticated trading platforms.
Stuff that used to require complex financial institutions.
Right. And that programmability fuels things like yield farming and staking.
Okay, explain those. That's where users can earn passive income.
Yeah, it's core to the economics. Users are incentivized, basically paid, to provide liquidity, like lending their assets to trading pools or to secure the network by staking their funds.
So you get rewards for helping the system run smoothly and securely.
Exactly. It makes participating economically worthwhile for users. It aligns incentives.
Okay, so we've seen the massive potential.
Hmm.
Accessibility, security, efficiency, programmability. It's compelling.
It really is.
But like any big shift, there are breaking points, friction points.
Mhm.
Let's pivot now to the hurdles. Because these challenges, they're actually driving the next wave of innovation, aren't they?
They absolutely are. And opportunities are still growing too, things like digital identity.
Where you control your own ID data, not some company.
Right. Less reliance on centralized databases, fewer big data breaches. It's gaining traction in healthcare, education, finance.
And cross-border payments are still a big focus area.
Definitely. The sources mention cryptocurrencies like Ripple's XRP and Stellar's XLM specifically designed to make global business transactions faster and cheaper.
Okay, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. The biggest hurdle everyone mentions, scalability.
Ah, yes. The transaction speed issue.
The sources hit us with that stark comparison. Bitcoin, maybe 7 transactions per second. Visa, something like 24,000 per second at peak times.
Yeah, it's a massive difference. It really begs the question, how do these networks handle becoming mainstream without grinding to a halt or losing their decentralized nature?
What are the solutions? Because they're working on it.
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing things like Ethereum using rollups. Basically, they bundle up lots of transactions off the main chain, process them faster, and then settle the summary back on the main chain.
Kind of like compressing data.
Sort of, yeah. And Bitcoin has its Lightning Network. That's a second layer built on top for handling lots of small instant payments without clogging up the main blockchain.
So layered solutions seem key. Okay, next hurdle, security. We can't ignore the big hacks, right? Like that DAO incident from years back. Stuff like that shakes confidence.
No, you can't ignore it. Security is paramount. But the defenses are getting much more sophisticated.
Like what?
Well, the shift from proof of work to proof of stake consensus is partly about security. Then you have things like multi-signature wallets needing multiple keys to approve a transaction, and increasingly zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs.
ZKPs. Okay, that sounds complex. Break that down for us. What's a zero-knowledge proof in simple terms?
Okay, imagine you need to prove you're over 21 to buy something, right? But you don't want to show the cashier your driver's license with your name, address, exact birth date, all that stuff.
Right, I just want them to know I'm old enough.
Exactly. A ZKP is like a cryptographic trick that lets you prove a specific statement is true, like, I am over 21, or I have enough funds for this purchase, without revealing any of the underlying private information.
Whoa. So you can verify something without actually showing the sensitive details.
Precisely. Validation without disclosure.
Okay, that's huge. Because that solves that tricky balance we mentioned earlier, transparency versus privacy.
Exactly. Public ledgers are great for trust, everyone can see the transactions, but seeing everything isn't great for individual privacy.
So ZKPs let the verification happen publicly, but keep the actual transaction details private. That's a breakthrough.
It really is. And it connects to the next challenge, governance. How do these decentralized networks actually make decisions?
You mean in DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations?
Right. They're supposed to be run by the community, by token holders voting. But what happens if a few big players, the whales, own most of the tokens?
They just outvote everyone else, right? So it's not really decentralized anymore, just controlled by different people.
That's the risk. You've just swapped old gatekeepers for new wealthy ones. So the industry's working on better governance tools.
Like what? How do you stop the whales dominating?
One interesting approach is quadratic voting. Instead of one token, one vote, it makes buying additional votes progressively, actually exponentially, more expensive.
Ah, so it costs a whale way more to buy their 100th vote than their first vote?
Exactly. It amplifies the influence of smaller stakeholders and makes it much harder for one entity to just buy control.
Clever. Okay, final hurdle. Sustainability. The energy consumption issue. Older systems like Bitcoin's proof of work are famous for being energy intensive.
Yeah, that's been a major criticism, and rightly so, but the space is adapting incredibly quickly here.
How so?
The vast majority of newer blockchains, and even Ethereum now, use proof of stake, which is vastly more energy efficient, like orders of magnitude less energy. Plus, you're seeing protocols specifically designed to be carbon neutral or even carbon negative. There's a huge push towards greener solutions. Decentralization is being forced to clean up its act, energy-wise.
So we have the ideals, the benefits, and we have these significant complex hurdles they're actively working on. What does this look like when it's actually applied? Outside of just finance and trading.
Right, let's make it concrete.
Let's look at that case study. Humanitarian aid logistics.
Okay.
Using this tech to solve real-world delivery problems.
This is where we look at the Pan American Medical Association, PAMA, and how they're using the Pi network.
Okay, tell us about PAMA first.
So PAMA is a nonprofit, a coalition really, that provides medical aid, think surgical kits, support for indigenous health programs mainly across Latin America, and also some underserved U.S. border areas. Critical work.
And they chose the Pi network as their blockchain platform. Why Pi? How does that link back to the challenges we just discussed?
It links back directly, especially to accessibility and sustainability. Pi is designed to be mobile first.
Meaning you can use it easily on a smartphone.
Exactly. And crucially, it doesn't use that energy-guzzling proof-of-work mining. It uses something called the Stellar Consensus Protocol, or SCP, which is a type of Federated Byzantine Agreement, FBA.
Okay, FBA. What's that in simple terms?
Instead of relying on raw computing power, it relies on a network of trust. Users form security circles with people they trust. Transaction validation depends on agreement within these trusted circles, not on solving complex math problems.
Ah, so it's based on social trust, not energy consumption.
Pretty much. That makes it incredibly energy efficient and ideal for the remote, often low-power environments where KMA operates. It also means people without powerful computers can participate just using their phones.
No, so Pi's design tackles the energy hurdle and the accessibility hurdle. Smart. But how does PAMA use its own token within this Pi network? We need to talk tokenomics.
Right. Tokenomics is just the rule book for a token. How it's created, how it's distributed, what you can do with it, and how all that encourages people to act in ways that benefit the project or the network.
So it's the economic design behind the token.
Exactly. It defines the token's purpose and value within its ecosystem.
So for PAMA, the tokenomics is designed to support their aid mission, enhance transparency and efficiency.
Precisely. Having their own PAMA token gives them several big advantages. Enhanced security, every transaction is cryptographically signed and recorded. Full transparency, donors can potentially track where aid goes. Better financial control. And streamline operations using smart contracts.
How do smart contracts help PAMA specifically?
Think about compliance or payments. You can automate grant distributions or reimbursements based on predefined conditions being met, all recorded on the blockchain, essential for managing aid across borders.
Okay, let's get specific. How does a PAMA token help get, say, a surgical kit to a remote clinic? What's the actual utility?
Okay, several key functions. First, aid distribution. A smart contract could track that surgical kit's journey on the Pi network. When it's shipped, when it's received, maybe even when it's used. It provides an auditable trail.
So donors can see their money in action, almost literally. That's
Right.
powerful for trust.
Hugely powerful. Second, internal transactions. PMAMA can use its tokens for payments within the organization, for reimbursements, maybe buying supplies from partners, also using the system. Everything's recorded instantly, immutably.
Okay.
Third, governance. This tackles that governance challenge we talked about. PMA token holders, maybe coalition partners, maybe even certain donors could get voting rights on things like campaign priorities or funding decisions.
So it decentralizes the decision-making within the aid organization itself.
That's the idea. Distribute the power. And finally, it can be an incentive system. Volunteers, local partners, they could earn PAMA tokens as rewards for their contributions, maybe driving more engagement.
Right, more engaging than just a thank you certificate. But wait, they still operate in the real world with dollars, right? How do they bridge that gap? How does fiat money become PAMA token?
Good question. They need what are called on-ramp services. These are regulated gateways, basically.
Right.
Authorized users can use traditional money, dollars, pesos, whatever, to buy PAMA tokens through compliant payment systems.
And then those tokens go into a digital wallet.
Exactly. A secure digital wallet that works with the Pi network blockchain. The whole process has to be compliant and secure, obviously.
So the takeaway from this PAMA example is pretty profound, isn't it? They're not just adopting tech. They're changing their philosophy.
It seems like it. They talk about decentralizing healing, making everyone involved, donors, doctors, local leaders, like a node in this transparent network of care.
It's taking the abstract concepts of DeFi and blockchain and applying them to solve a very real, very human problem.
It's a perfect example of theory meeting practice. So if we summarize our whole deep dive, Cryptocurrencies are really pushing to restructure finance, enabling access, efficiency, censorship resistance.
But it's not just about the initial grand vision. The sources really show it's defined by resilience, right? How the community tackles huge challenges like
Yeah.
scalability, security, governance.
Exactly. It adapts. And as you said, knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied. Seeing blockchain move from just abstract ideas to systems like PAMA's tokenized aid, it proves the tech can drive real, equitable change.
It has to be applied thoughtfully, ethically.
Absolutely. And those problems we discussed, the scalability limits, the privacy tension, they aren't roadblocks, really. They're more like, well, checkpoints, fueling the next stage of development.
Yeah, driving innovation like ZKPs, better governance models.
Right. So the future of decentralization, it feels like it's less about just speed or cost and more about rewriting the rules of trust for our digital world.
Which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener. If tokenomics, this system of digital rules and incentives, can manage something as complex as humanitarian aid distribution with total transparency, what assumptions about centralized control and accountability do you need to maybe challenge in your own field, in your own work?
Something to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.